Morten, first game I want to talk to you about is the Bills at Chiefs, two Super Bowl candidates meeting in the divisional round. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, this is a really, really good matchup. Both teams are very explosive offensively. I think the Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites right now, so it's going to be a very good game. The Chiefs actually got destroyed by the Bills earlier this season, 38-20. That was in October, but the Chiefs are a different team now. They've won 11 of their last 13 games since that loss to Buffalo. They had their way against the Steelers, man. Their offense just flipped the switch, right? And Mahomes, 30 for 39, 404 yards, 5 touchdowns. Even his tight end, Travis Kelce, got a touchdown. So when you're able to pass for 6 touchdowns in a playoff games, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about Kansas City. The Chiefs defense looked very, very solid down the stretch as well. So this team is solid, very, very good right now. The Bills, they might have put up the biggest and the most impressive offensive game in NFL history. Now, listen to this, guys. Against the Patriots, no punts, 0. No field goals, 0. No turnovers, 0. That's the first time that has ever happened in the history of the NFL. So this was a terrible game by the Patriots. But the Bills' offense, they were number 5 in the league. Their defense is was number one by a landslide. So this is the most complete roster in the AFC, regardless of how Kansas City has been. Josh Allen, unbelievable, right? He's running the ball, he's passing the ball, and he was in full control in the game. So he was 21 for 25, I think, against the Pats, 308 yards. The big question is, can the Bill offense, keep up with the Chiefs? I mean, these guys both put up 40-plus points this past weekend. They're both ranked in the top 5 in offense. Both average over 28 points per game. And both average over 380 yards of total offense. So this is going to be an offensive fest. Points, 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 points. Because of my preseason prediction that the Bills would beat the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, I have to say I am picking the Bills to upset the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a field goal game. It's going to come right down to the very end. But if I have to look at it realistically, this game can go either way. It's a pick 'em game to me, but I'm taking the Bills because I have to be consistent with my pick back in August.
Wir springen rüber in die NFC. Rams at Buccaneers. Die Rams können zu Hause in den Super Bowl gewinnen. Die Buccaneers dagegen mit Tom Brady seinen 8. Ring feiern. Morten, what do you think? Is it going to be the 8th ring for Tom Brady or a Super Bowl chance for the Rams on home soil?
It depends whether the Bucs starting center and right tackle are healthy. Right now, we have Jensen in a boot, and we have the right tackle limping around the facility. They won't practice till Friday. So the big reason the Bucs will win this game is if those two guys come back healthy. If not, then you have Von Miller. You have their pass defense, the Rams' pass defense, having a field day against the Buccaneers. So this is a very tough game to pick, and I've been studying it. The Bucs had their field day against the Eagles. That was not, and this is why I say that when you include the 7 seeds in the playoffs, it waters down the product. I mean, you look at the Eagles getting crushed. You look at the Steelers getting crushed. It's very exciting in week 18 of the regular season because more teams are in play, more teams are relevant. But for the playoffs, it's almost like a bye week. It was a bye week for the Chiefs. It was a bye week for the Bucs. Those teams were not competitive. So I don't think the league is going back to 12 teams in the playoffs. It's going to be 14. And eventually, guys, it's going to be 16. We're going to have 8 in each conference. That's where we're heading. So, but I digress. I was talking about Von Miller and Aaron Donald for the Rams. The Bucs, they look great. Listen, Tom Brady's playoff record has now moved to 34-11. let me put that in perspective for all the fans out there. The Rams have been a franchise since 1936. Their all-time playoff record is 22-27. Tom Brady is 34-11 all-time. So if that doesn't tell you he's the greatest of all time, it's unprecedented. It'll never be duplicated. But like I said, they're dealing with injuries, and it's going to be tough. The Rams looked good against the Cardinals, but really what I noticed was Arizona looked like they didn't know how to play football in SoFi last week. So they had a blowout against them. They looked great. Cooper Kupp is unbelievable. He's had a great season as a wide receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. is a stud in the red zone, goes and gets the ball at the high point, very dangerous. Matthew Stafford looked awesome. Von Miller is finally back in shape, right? He's playing great on defense. And Sean McVay is a great play caller. So this is going to be a good game. The Rams beat the Bucs in week 3. They beat him by 10 points, 34-24. So we have to look at that. We have to say, the Rams rush only 4 guys, and they can drop 8. And, man, they have Ramsey out there, very good cornerback. So it's a tough game to pick. I have to go with the Buccaneers simply, and I want to put a little caveat in there. If the center and the right tackle, if they're healthy, the Bucs will win. If those 2 guys can't go, then you have Von Miller, Aaron Donald, and the pass rush just absolutely having a field day on the Bucs offensive line. So if they're healthy, the Bucs win. If those 2 guys can't go at game time, I would have to say the Rams. I know that's not really I'm not committing to my answer, but that's really where we're at here as we're talking early in the week.
Morten, you have your own podcast, The Great Dane, I want to talk to you about. You had Bob Costas last week. How was the interview with him? Tell us about that.
It was very long. Bob can talk. Bob Costas can talk. So Great Dane Nation, of course, is the name of my podcast. I would invite all our German fans to listen to it. Bob was amazing. He's one of the greatest broadcasters in the history of broadcasting. He's done numerous Olympics. He's worked for NBC for over 40 years. He now has an HBO special, Back on the Record, very interesting content-driven show. He's just an interesting guy, and he's never shy to give you an honest opinion about current events. Or it's interesting, he's not on social media. He has nothing, 0. So he's old school that way. But an interesting hang, good time. And we had a lot of fun. I might have mentioned this last week to you guys. I think the strength of the podcast, guys, is that because I played for so long, I'm able to ask these guys questions with some amount of credibility because I've either played against them, played, with them, or been interviewed by them. And so it's very interesting for me to be able to sit on this side and interview a man like Bob Costas, who has sat down with presidents, sat down with the biggest entertainers, the biggest comedians, the biggest politicians, the biggest personalities in the world, and have his take, his honest take. He really was very transparent. So the difficult thing for us was to edit that 90 minutes I had with him down to under an hour. But I think we have a good product there, and I hope you guys enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, so every Wednesday new episodes drop. You can watch them on youtube.com/SwiegersInsiderTV. We're happy to promote this great podcast. And by the way, we were pretty long last week as well. We had an hour of NFL content.
That's good.
For all our German fans out there.
Awesome.
And that was pretty fun as well. Let's talk about the NFL postseason. What do you think? What was the biggest surprise this last wildcard weekend for you?
Well, for me, and I mentioned it I mentioned it a little earlier. It's the fact that the 7 seeds are just not competitive right now. That's really what jumps out at me. Home field advantage, is real. It's a very big advantage, and But I just think the 7 seeds right now, they have a responsibility to their fan base to be competitive. I think there's a tendency as a player sometimes, if you have a team that's around 500, like 8-8, and you limp into the playoffs, you know, you're not firing on all cylinders, but you limp in as a wild card, and an underdog, you have to go on the road. The tendency for some, especially the young players, is to say, oh, we made the playoffs, you know, mission accomplished, where you're really just starting, where guys like Brady, you know, guys that have been there for a long time, they smell blood in the water, right? They want to keep going, and they want to host they want to take the Lombardi. That's what it's all about. So I was disappointed in the way Pittsburgh played. I was disappointed in the way the Eagles played. You know, I would listen to Ben Roethlisberger, and that probably will be the last time we see that Hall of Fame quarterback. He's had a tremendous career, but I listened to him before the game against the Chiefs, and I remember something struck me. He said, I just hope we can stay with them. I hope we can keep it tight. That's not really telling me that this guy believes they're going to win the football game. So the takeaway for me for Wildcard Weekend is home field is real. That's a big advantage. And then that the 7 seeds having to go on the road, not very competitive right now. So that we have to look at that. And especially if you down the road are going to add another 2 teams and make it 16, which I think will happen. And you're not going back to 12 teams. So yeah, those are the biggest takeaways for me.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about weather. You know, the weather's going to be a factor, especially in Green Bay. And if somehow Buffalo wins in Kansas City and has the AFC Championship game in Buffalo, you know, against Cincinnati,
gonna be tough for them. Yeah, sure thing. Did anything change in your mind concerning the Super Bowl favorite? I think you said Bills last week.
My preseason prediction was that the Bills would beat Green Bay. They're both still alive in the playoffs, so I have to be loyal to my picks in August. I'm staying with them. That doesn't mean I don't believe the Chiefs or the Bucs couldn't get there, but I really think that it's pretty accurate what I felt and saw in August, that the Bills with Josh Allen and their offense and their number 1 defense, you know, is right there. And that Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and that receiving core, Devontae Adams, and that home field advantage in Lambeau is real when it's minus, 10 to 15 degrees. Nobody wants to go play in Lambeau. No one. I have played there in January. It is nasty. It's cold. The frozen tundra, that is not something they're just saying for fun. It's brutal.
I can imagine, yeah. Morten, thank you so far. Let's go and talk about those Packers. First Matchup, I'm gonna switch to German now. Wir haben das erste Spiel, die 49ers at Packers, 2 Traditions-Franchise. Morten, I think your tip is on the Packers, right?
Well, it is, but the Niners are playing really good football. Here you have 2 teams that have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. So that is really something to look for. That means you should have high quality football. The Niners are actually ranked higher offensively and defensively if you look at the statistics than Green Bay is, but the home field advantage is distinct. What strikes me when I look at this game is, Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, have now won 13 games in each of his first 3 seasons. They have also been to the NFC Championship game each of the last 2 years. So clearly, this guy knows how to win, and they're running he's got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That is a fact. The Packers beat the Niners in Levi's Stadium in Week 3. They beat him by 2 points. It was very close. It was kind of the time when the Packers flipped the switch because they had lost it. They had a close game against Detroit. They got beat in Jacksonville. Remember in the game against the Saints, because the Saints had to go on the road because of weather. So they are dangerous at home. Again, the 49ers, top 10 offense, top 10 defense, and they were rolling. They've been rolling. They've won 9 of their last 12 games. They're healthy. They have Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan. The thing about Deebo Samuel that's so beautiful, you can line him up wide as a wide receiver, and no one can cover him man-to-man. Forget about it. You can put him in the backfield. No one can catch him. He's the fastest man on the field. So that is a real, he was a difference maker against Dallas last week. They used him very creatively, and I just really like him as a player, as the X factor. Jimmy Garoppolo, he didn't play well, Sunday. He doesn't have tremendously big hands. That's going to be a factor in cold weather, to grip that ball and try to throw the ball. Look for Garoppolo to throw a couple of high balls, things like that, because of the cold weather and the fact that, you want to get a good grip on the ball. So that's something I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I got the Packers winning this game, but I think it's pretty close. I think they're 5.5-point favorite. It's going to be a touchdown or less. I think they might cover the points, the Packers. I think they win by a touchdown.
Wir kommen zu unserem letzten Spiel, Bengals at Titans. 2 Teams, die man vielleicht nicht so unbedingt als Super Bowl-Favoriten vor der Saison getippt hätte, treffen jetzt in der Divisional Round aufeinander. Morten, Bengals at Titans, 2 teams you wouldn't take for a Super Bowl favorite, but
no.
They surprise this year, don't they?
Yeah, and I really like what Burrows has done up there in Cincinnati. I like what Rabel has done in Tennessee. The Titans have home field advantage, and they're getting their king back, King Henry. He's practicing this week. He had a bad injury for a while. Just to put some perspective on what he has been able to do, he played 8 games this season. We're talking about running back Derrick Henry. 8 games, 937 yards and 10 touchdowns. Imagine if he had had a full slate of games, 17 games, he would have had over 2,000 yards, no question. So how effective will he be now coming back from injury? He hasn't played in a very long time. He's fresh. He's rested. But how's that leg going to do when he starts cutting, when he starts taking some hits? That is my big question mark. We'll see. But he definitely will add a tremendous amount of firepower to the Titans. One other interesting tidbit about the Tennessee Titans, they have gone through over 90 different players on the field for them this season. That is the most in the league. So imagine a roster of 47 active players, 90 guys they have to interchange. That is a really good job by Mike Rabel, their head coach. He deserves a lot of credit for playing like that roulette and just keeping it going, next man up. As far as the Bengals, they looked good Sunday. They played well. That was the best game, actually, the most competitive games, the Bengals against the Raiders. The Bengals' run defense was ranked number 5 in the league. So I think the matchup here is the Bengals' run defense versus Derrick Henry. Who wins that matchup? Joe Burrow has been cool as ever in the playoffs. He threw for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. He never looked rattled. And he's got his running mate from Louisiana State, Jamar Chase, who was awesome, who had 9 catches for 116 yards. The Titans have one of the worst pass defenses in the league. So look for Cincinnati to try to explore that weakness with that Burrow and Chase connection. I'm going upset special here, boys. I'm taking the Bengals.
All right, we got that one.
I'm taking the Bengals. I know the Titans are favored by like a field goal, 3.5, but I'm taking the Bengals to go to Nashville, and it's not going to be any Music City miracles. It's going to be the Bengals roaring through Nashville and sitting in the AFC Championship game, probably against my Buffalo Bills. That's what I'm hoping.